Hello. This is Miss Miller here to talk to you about how to do your feminist critical essay, which is due on Friday, December 20th. Okay, so hold on, let me just get settled here. Okay, so here's what you want to do. The very first part of your essay is your introduction. Your introduction is where you'll give us the background information and set up your thesis statement to answer the question, which is how would, in fact, let me write it down. Here's our focus question here. So our focus question is, how would a feminist critic evaluate either, don't do both, story of an hour or, what's the other one, a rose for Emily. Just kidding, punctuation. Okay, so far so good? Okay. Now the very first thing you need to do is write your introduction. Your introduction should have like a hook. A hook is something that gets your reader interested. A hook could be a question. Here, everything that I type, I'm just gonna do in red, okay? So it'll be either like a question or a controversial comment. Based on our fishbowl discussion, I think you guys will do an awesome job coming up with a controversial comment or question, okay? Now background on your critical perspective. That's where you're gonna say like, either feminist, now the slash means or, like this thing means or. Okay, so feminist or matriarchal or patriarchal or androgynous. Okay, criticism, I totally spelled that wrong, didn't I? Hold up. Wise. Criticism is, and then you'll define it for us, okay? You could just say that it's like a perspective through which people view literature, art, okay, or, that deals with inequality or equality. So I'm going to say that again. You could say for your critical perspective that like matriarchal, patriarchal, feminist, or androgynous, whichever one you're going to do, is a way through which people view literature or art dealing with equality or inequality between genders. Does that make sense? You can't answer me, but I hope it does. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is talk about the background on your author and the story. So you might say something like, give the name of the author, his or her dates, or at least the century in which they are writing, and just general topics they wrote about, which can all be found in the About the Author section in Springboard. Okay? So that's your background on your author. Background on the story would be like, Story of an Hour or A Rose for Emily is about, just a general topic overview. For example, Story of an Hour is about a woman who finds out her husband has just died in a train crash. Or A Rose for Emily is about a woman who has just recently died and the townspeople kind of heading to her house to visit her before she's buried, which is basically like how the story starts, right? Okay, so far so good. Now for your thesis. Your thesis must include the title, author, tell us what perspective you're taking, and give us a reason for why the person would evaluate the story that way. So I'm going to give you an example for how to do this. I'm not going to give you an example from either of the stories because I don't want to give you answers, so I'm going to do it for why women always take advantage of men, okay? So if I were to do this for why women always take advantage of men, I would say, and again, this is an example. You're doing either Story of an Hour or A Rose for Emily, okay? So you would say, why women, always take advantage of men, and then by, just kidding, Zora Neale Hurston. And then would they like it? Would they dislike it? We'll say would be appreciated by a sophisticated patriarchal critic, and then tell us why. Because let's see, a sophisticated patriarchal critic would like that story mostly because it points out that men and women cannot be equal. Okay, so even though like a sophisticated patriarchal critic wouldn't necessarily like the fact that women get what they want in the story, he would or she would appreciate it because it points out that general inequality, right? And that's what they are looking for. Now remember, a sophisticated critic is going to look for inequality or equality, and they're going to find anything interesting, but they're going to like things that prove that they are correct. An unsophisticated critic is only going to like things that proves that they are correct. Okay, we'll come back to that thought. Now I'm going to wrap this up for our introduction. I'm just going to give you an overview and then I'm going to make a new video for the next piece. So for your introduction, you begin with a hook that has something to do with your topic, something about the equality or inequality of genders perhaps. Stay away from hooks about the story, because remember the focus of this isn't the story. Our focus question deals with how the story would be evaluated by this type of critic. So mostly it's about the criticism. Okay, give us some background on what critical perspective is, like what yours is kind of about, background on the author and the story, and these are just a sentence or two. It's like not a big deal. And then for your thesis statement, it needs to follow this format to be correct. I really don't care if you want to like change these around, as long as it has all four of these elements and it's clear and it's logical and it makes sense, we're solid, okay? Now, if you have a question about this, raise your hand and ask me or Mr. Dupuis now, but I'm going to wrap up this video, so I hope that this was clear. Thank you.